By Elizabeth Sepper, a law professor at the University of Texas. She's a nationally recognized scholar of religious liberty, health law, and equality. Thanks so much for being with us here on France 24. So this law in Florida, which goes into effect today, it's expected to really transform access to abortion across the South. How specifically will this law impact women in Florida? I mean, how far will they have to travel, for example, to get an abortion if they want one?
So Florida put into place a 15-week ban in 2022. The 6-week ban, of course, is a near total ban, and it's going to affect women throughout the South. We know that in 2023, more than 9,000 women traveled to Florida for abortions they could not receive in their own states. And now, once a 6-week ban is in effect, women in Miami will have to travel nearly 1,200 kilometers in order to access abortion. So enormous burdens on the people of Florida.
Don't bans like this have an oversized impact on women on the lower end of the economic spectrum who may not have the means to travel hundreds of miles to get an abortion?
Yes, for abortions that are scheduled, certainly those without means are going to find it more difficult to travel. Mothers will find it very difficult to secure childcare. Many states require multiple visits, which will mean prolonged trips away from home. But it's important to note that in states with bans in place and very limited exceptions for health and for life, like the one Florida just put into effect, bans affect miscarriage management, they affect crises in pregnancy. And so women across the socioeconomic spectrum are going to find that in crisis, their lives and health are going to be put at risk in emergency departments across the state.
Well, so there, as we said, there's a referendum on the November ballot in Florida to enshrine abortion rights in the state's constitution. But in the meantime, what impact will there be on abortion clinics in Florida? And would they be able to reopen if this ban is lifted by the voters in November?
The impact is likely to be pretty extreme. We're going to see abortion clinics close, and even if the ballot initiative passes, it's likely that many will not be able to reopen. We saw this in Texas in 2016 when the U.S. Supreme Court struck down some Texas abortion regulations that were being challenged. But in the meantime, while that was being litigated, half of abortion clinics closed, and very few of them were able to reopen again because of the startup costs.
Now, even with this ban in place, do women in Florida still have access to abortion medications? Can they receive them in the mail? And if not, is that something that will now go underground?
Medication abortion is part of Florida's ban and therefore is prohibited past that 6-week mark, which is a point in time when most people may be just finding out that they're pregnant. So medication abortion is also banned under the Florida law. It is likely that people in Florida, as in other states throughout the South, will order medication abortion via various internet sources and take those pills in the privacy of their home despite the abortion ban in place.
Is that something that's happening now, and can it be prevented? Are states trying to do anything to prevent people from receiving those medications?
It is happening now on a very wide scale in abortion banned states. States have put into place some limited number of laws that might reach medication abortion mailing, including in Texas. What's really lurking over this is the November election for president, because there's a federal law from the 1800s that President Trump, if elected, would be able to use to prosecute people who put medication abortion in the mail or receive it.
I know you're not a political science professor, you're a law professor, but I do want to ask a question here about the election coming up. How do you see the issue of abortion rights affecting the election in November, both with regard to this referendum and the presidential race, given that Florida traditionally trends Republican?
So abortion has been an issue that has united voters across the political spectrum. Whether or not people would choose abortion for themselves or think that they would not, most people think that decision should be between the pregnant person and their physician. Now, I'm not a political scientist, right? And the interaction between partisan politics and abortion, I think, gets a little bit more complicated.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Elizabeth Sepper, law professor at the University of Texas. Thanks so much for joining us here on France 24. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.